Welcome back to the channel, Hobby1 Kenobi here. I'm excited to continue working on the Hasegawa 1/48 scale A-4E Skyhawk. If you joined me in the last video, you know I got the cockpit started, made of the fuselage halves, and attached the wings. Today we're doing a deeper dive into the build, finishing up some final construction details, and then it's time for paint. So let's get right into it. First up, let's tackle the horizontal stabilizers. Now, Hasegawa molded the elevators a bit thick, and I wanted to make sure they look more realistic. Since not much detail would be lost, I decided to thin them down. The process begins by carefully scraping plastic from the trailing edge of the elevators. A crucial tip here is to keep the blade as flat as possible. This avoids beveling the edges and gives the piece a smooth and realistic shape. After scraping, I used sanding sticks to refine the edges. Now the horizontal stabilizers look much more realistic. I glued in the clear cover for the leading edge 3-light external display. This part should sit flush with the wing, but the piece from Hasegawa didn't fit perfectly, so I had to use a little CA glue to fill in the gaps. Once the glue set, I sanded the piece down with sandpaper and sanding sticks. Then I polished it up with a Dremel tool fitted with a polishing wheel to achieve a nice clear finish. I also thinned down the attachment points for the heads-up display and mounted the control cover in place, securing it with Tamiya extra thin cement. For the canopy and the windshield, I masked them off both inside and out using Tamiya tape. Then I airbrushed NATO black on the exposed areas. One fun detail I like to add to these models is to create the oxygen hose for the cockpit. I make it by coiling thin wire around another piece of wire, which eventually will be painted and positioned over one of the side consoles. Once everything was dry, I carefully removed the masking tape and cleaned up any imperfections with a toothpick. This step really brings everything together, ensuring that the clear parts have a crisp, clean finish. Now it's time for some airbrushing. First, I sprayed the white on the underside and several upper areas of the wings. Using my GSI Krios airbrush, I started with the tricky angles first, making sure to hit those hard-to-reach areas. Then I worked my way out to the flatter surfaces. This technique helps ensure thorough coverage. When spraying white, I always try to lay it down in multiple coats. Even if the base color is light gray, you still want that solid, crisp finish that only multiple layers can provide. Next, I masked off the hinges on all the flaps. Now you could go the easy route and just mask straight across the flaps themselves, spray the next color, and then brush paint each hinge separately. But I decided to do it the long way, masking off each hinge with small rectangular pieces of Tamiya tape. It was a tedious task, but the results are worth it. With the white areas masked off, I moved on to airbrushing the gray. The transition between the white and gray should be feathered, so I made sure to freehand the airbrush to achieve that nice soft edge. I also masked off and painted the red interior sections of the leading edge flaps. With everything masked and ready to go, I sprayed the red, then carefully removed the tape. Only a few small spots had overspray, nothing a little touch-up can't fix. Now let me take a moment to talk about the blue areas of the Skyhawk. I'm representing an aircraft from VA-163, the same squadron flown by Senator John McCain. I loved the vibrant blue and red patterns on these Skyhawks. However, I did run into a couple of issues. The blue lines for the vertical stabilizer rudder came as individual decals, which isn't the issue, but I wasn't sure that they would fit properly. Additionally, the shade of blue didn't match the historical photos I found, so I decided to mix up a custom blue using Tamiya paints. Instead of using decals, I decided to airbrush all the blue areas and mask them off carefully. I did end up having a lot of problems with the decals, but I will save that for the next and final video. To mask off the white lines, I cut thin strips of Tamiya tape and set them in place with tweezers and my trusty optical visor. The tedious process was totally worth it to avoid those off-color decals. The triangular emblem took some time, but I'm happy with the results. And here we are so far. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss the next update. We've got a lot more to come. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.